Being always on your mind. That's something that narcissists are very good at. Whether you're in a relationship with them or whether you've broken up with them, or even narcissists in your life who are not in a romantic relationship with you, but maybe you know them in some other capacity. Could even be family. But they're very good at staying on people's minds. And knowing that they are in people's minds, in a way, living rent free in people's heads, gives them a lot of supply. But how do they do that? Why do they get people? How do they get people to constantly think about them? There are many things that narcissists do that keep them on your mind. One thing is narcissists like keeping conversations, interactions, any kind of rendezvous between you two. They keep things open ended. That's one thing they do. Like maybe you're having a conversation about something, and just when you were about to get into the detail of something interesting, they kind of cut off and leave you wanting a little bit more of whatever the conversation was about. So that's one thing they do that kind of keeps things in a way unfinished, open ended. If you, let's say, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, another thing they do is, and you don't necessarily need to be in a romantic relationship, but you see this very often in romantic relationships, is you never quite know where you stand with them. Like, narcissists are very good at feeding you a little bit of conflicting information, kind of saying one thing but behaving in a slightly different way that slightly contradicts their words, but you can't always quite put your finger on the inconsistency. It could be something as simple as them telling you how much you mean to them and how much, you're the center of their world, but it seems they're always too distracted about other matters. They never really have enough time to think about you, what's important for you, and it seems they may forget simple things like your birthday, your favorite food, or even the date that you had scheduled for, a Friday evening. So it's kind of like you can't quite reconcile those things. And there are many other things they can do as well, but the way they manage to keep you wondering where they stand with you is something else that keeps you thinking about them because you're trying to work out the problem. There's a problem there, you're trying to find the solution. And because they feed you a little bit of that cognitive dissonance, which leads up to this thing where you don't really know where things stand between the two of you. The result of that is that they're on your mind. You find yourself constantly thinking about them sometimes, way more than you feel you should, and you don't always understand why. And I mean, finally, there's another thing where if you ever break up in a relationship with them, and this is something that is post the breakup, is they don't really give you closure or satisfaction about why things fell apart, but why they no longer saw you as somebody who they cared about, who was relevant to them, who was important to keep in their lives. Because you could be the exact same person on the day of the breakup that you were on the day you actually met them. Let's say you were together for a couple of years. It could be that you were bringing the same thing to the table. You were yourself, growing here and there as we all do, but you were fundamentally yourself seeking improvement. But one day they think the world of you, and then later on they think nothing of you. They break up with you. But it often catches you by surprise, and they don't really give you a satisfactory explanation around why things didn't work out. It's that lack of closure. And then if they were to leave, you try to get that closure on your own, in your head, which can lead to rumination, obsessive thinking, trying to work out what happened, what went wrong, how were things so good at the beginning, but at the end, they just seem to have fallen apart, but you couldn't really pinpoint, where things took a curve in the wrong direction. It's just the way narcissists are. They don't give closure. And the fact that you keep ruminating on what went wrong and why you were not good enough for them. Sometimes that's what people think, they were not good enough. All that gives the narcissist supply once they're broken up with you. And that's why they do that. And of course, it also means that you're more likely to accept them back if they ever try to come back with a Hoover. So, yeah, depending on the nature of the relationship with them, depending at this, on the stage of the relationship, they apply different techniques, tactics, but all of them have the same fundamental purpose, which is it keeps you thinking about them. And why is that important? Why do narcissists have this subconscious? Because narcissists don't always consciously think this through, but it's just part of who they are. It's almost like a survival technique. They do things and behave in a way such that you and other people too keep thinking about them. Well, one thing is they need to feel relevant, so they kind of they have a natural way of messing with people's heads. To think, so they keep thinking about the narcissist. It makes them feel relevant. It makes them feel important. It kind of feeds that grandiosity that they feel about themselves. That high standing ego, and at the end of the day, it's all supply. They want supply. So if you, I mean, the takeaway, for you from all this is just it all comes down to knowing who you're dealing with, and knowing what to expect. Because if you know you're dealing with a narcissist, and you know that you should expect these behaviors, then the impact on you is very much diluted, subdued. If people screw with your head, even if you know who they are, it can still have some impact. But if you know that, okay, this person's a narcissist, this is how they behave, they come from the same manual book, then you'll be like, okay, I get it. It's still not pleasant interacting with this person, but I get it. And it's not going to screw me over because, I can get my own closure. I understand why I'm thinking about this person, and it just becomes easier to handle. So, yeah, I mean, your closure, the way you settle your thoughts when the narcissist is constantly on your mind, is just to understand who they are and the reason for that. It's the lack of closure, it's the conflicting information, the cognitive dissonance, not knowing where things stand, and how they like to keep things open-ended with you. All of those things feed towards them being on your mind. But it's once you understand that, it becomes more manageable.